Hello and welcome to episode 29 of the Sandeman Street Podcast, a podcast about Dundee and Dundee United from fans of both clubs. I am Andrew and today I am joined by my regular co-host Jack. Jack, how are you this Monday afternoon?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I think last week I did say in the beginning that I was going to come up with a different intro. I've not managed to do that, so we're stuck with that this boring one. But maybe sometime in the hopefully not so distant future, we'll get a new intro to keep them a bit more interesting.
Yeah.
Before we get going, my usual call for following us on the socials, the social media platforms. We are on Twitter at Sandeman ST Pod. That is at Sandeman ST Pod. And on Instagram, we are at the Sandeman Street Pod. At the Sandeman Street Pod. You can also find us on YouTube. Just type in the Sandeman Street Podcast on YouTube. If you could subscribe to our channel, that would be great. Share as much as you can. Leave comments, like our videos, all the interactions that you can. That would be great. But we'll get into the weekend that we've just had, the Scottish Cup fourth round weekend. It's always a kind of a date on the calendar that the Scottish football fans seem to look forward to, unless you're a Dundee fan, when you typically get a shit draw. This season it turned out to be a not too bad one, but Dundee were at Kilmarnock, and yeah, it turned out to be a successful afternoon for Dundee. 2-1 victory down at Rugby Park, and to be honest with you, a bit like the game at Dens a couple of weeks ago when they faced Kilmarnock, when it was the same scoreline. Kilmarnock went 1-0 up, Dundee equalised, and then when it won the match 2-1. It could have been a lot more than 2-1. I don't know how much you've seen of the game, Jack, what you've heard from it, but it was a bit of a 2-1 battering from somebody who was at the match.
Yeah, mate. I watched the highlights and it definitely looked like that Dundee were the better team by a mile. I think Kelly only had a couple of chances at the highlights. Dundee obviously hit the post a couple of times, the crossbar, so either way. Created a few good chances as well. Their keeper made a couple of good saves, and yeah, Dundee should have had that in the bag long before they got it. I think your defence was poor in the first goal. I think their boys hit it really well, but you should never have been given that time to run into the back post for their from their set piece. But Dundee managed to take their chances in the end, took advantage of the man being sent off, and all in all, it's a good result for them.
Yeah, certainly a good result. Any result that gets you through in a cup tie is a good result, in my opinion. The the game couldn't have started any better for Dundee in terms of being on the front foot. They had numerous different chances. Tony Ugan at the back post probably has the easiest one of the early chances, where he beats the goalie, but there's a man on the line. He should probably lift it. He goes the right way, in my opinion, but he should probably lift it. And then the defender's in all sorts of trouble, I think, if that's the case. Then we hit the bar. Ashley had a chance at the back post. Congreve had a chance. It was chance after chance. Some of them you don't actually see on the highlights. Could have been 1-2, 3-0 up within the first 15 minutes. And then what happens after us hitting the bar 2 or 3 times? Kilmarnock got the part to get a corner. As you say, it is poor marking, it is a good finish. It can be both. And it hits both posts and goes in. Now, after that, Kilmarnock had a bit of the ball. They never had any sort of chances as such, but they had more of the ball than us. And then Dundee came back into the game, finished off the half the stronger of the teams, had a couple of chances, and you're thinking, is it going to be one of those days where we're hitting everything other than the net? They're hitting both posts and scoring. It had the sort of the feel of that could have been the case, but they come out for the second half and immediately it's back where they started again in the first half. It was an absolute doing, really. I mean, I love it how this Dundee team has evolved into 2 direct wingers who love taking their man on, because it's very old school. You don't really see it now, where there's proper wingers who like to take on their full back, and it's exactly what I like to see. I love watching wingers, especially Tony Ugan. I mean, Kilmarnock right back, I think it was Lewis Mayo, didn't have a clue how to handle him. And the fact that he was sent off in the 90 whatever minute for a last man tackle to deny Yandanda a chance to roll the ball in the net, and it wasn't even on Tony Ugan, was absolutely amazing because he could have been booked about 3 times. But Ashley Hay then gets the equaliser, great finishing at the top corner, another brilliant forward run from Luke Graham to set that goal to start the move, and then I'll let you talk about the winning goal, Jack, because it's just comical.
It's horrendous from their goalie, mate, and their defender. All gets whipped in from out wide. I think it's maybe Danda that whips the ball in. I'm not too sure.
I was doing me snow on it.
Yeah, it goes way up into the sky, comes down right in the front of the keeper. There's a defender there. Neither of them call for it. They both challenge for it. Ball ends up dropping down in front of the Dundee player. I can't mind who. Oh, Dre Wright, I think it was. And he just taps into the back of the net. It's absolutely comical and should never be happening at that level of football.
I think the Aberdeen fans saw that coming. They didn't have very high opinions of Keller Roos, who was the Kilmarnock goalie, making his debut, by the way. He only signed during the week on loan from, I think it's Notts County, and that's what he produces on his debut. Oh dear. I was actually saying to somebody earlier on today or yesterday, maybe it was, that sort of stuff never happens to Dundee. And lo and behold, it did. I mean, you look back to the game a couple of weeks ago at Dens when Luke Graham let the ball go over his foot and Greg Kilty ran through and scored. I actually said to the boy sitting next to Dens that sort of stuff never happens to us. Well, it turns out it does, because we got a bit of a break ourselves yesterday, and it just goes to show you that karma is alive and kicking when it comes to football.
Yeah, mate, it is funny how it happens, especially with a new goalkeeper. You want him to be confident and make good stops, and he does that. It's fortunate for Dundee and unfortunate for them.
I know, but well, a couple of things I wanted to touch on. Obviously, Dundee through the next round, played very well, more than deserved to win the match. And took the car through on Saturday, so we're sitting in the car on the way back, and I think we were round the roundabout Cumbernauld when Stephen Presley came on the radio, and then Neil McCann shortly afterwards. And Neil McCann's interview I've heard 1,000 times when he was Dundee manager. It was just car crash stuff, really. I mean, he said, I'm not going to say word for word exactly what he said, but basically he said he doesn't care about the Scottish Cup. His only thought process is keeping Kilmarnock in the Premier League. Now, there's two things that you could say about that. One of them is, if he's thinking that way, which he isn't, was the first thing to say. So he isn't thinking that way. But if he is actually thinking that way, the second thing I would say is, come out in your pre-game press conference on Thursday or on Friday and tell the Kilmarnock supporters that. Because if you tell the Kilmarnock supporters that, they'll no bother their arse to spend 20 odd quid to come and watch them, because they know that their manager doesn't care about it, and they know that their manager will set up his team to get beat, because his only thought process is that he wants to keep Kilmarnock in the Premiership. Which, by the way, having watched them twice in the space of a couple of weeks, will be an achievement, because they are stinking.
Yeah, mate, they've not done well this season at all. It's I think Neil McCann should come out and say that. It just, like you say, it saves the Killie fans the despair of having to go watch them every week. At least they get a wee week off and having a break instead of paying 20 odd quid to go watch them get beat by Dundee. It's if he says his priority is the league, then I think he's saying that maybe as a bit of deflection to take away from the result. But only he knows, really. It's like, to a United fan, Killie are prime Barcelona, we can't beat them, and I've said that a few times this season that they're a bogey team. But to Dundee, it seems like a walk in the park every time you play them, and I feel like for most teams it's the same way.
Well, funnily enough, that's actually the first time that we've beaten them at Rugby Park since the playoff. When we beat them in the playoffs in 2021, I'm tempted to say.
All right.
So I hadn't beaten them through there in a while, and actually our home record against them isn't too bad. We won the last two against them, but I think before that we hadn't beaten them since the playoff either. So our record isn't great against Kilmarnock, but there has been a lot of draws within that time period. The other thing I wanted to touch on briefly, I'll say very briefly this time because it's a bit of a typical Andrew Monday afternoon moan when we're recording this, but when is Colin Stephen going to get his jotters for the SFA? He is just not good enough to be a referee. I know that there is a lot of bad referees, or people in Scotland will think that there's a lot of bad referees up here, but he is just the worst. I mean, Saturday's game, there was barely a bad tackle in the match, and there must have been something like 9 yellow cards in it.
Jesus Christ.
He must love writing their reports. I'm actually going to have a look on the match report, and I'm going to count how many yellow cards there were, because it was ridiculous. Really bordering on ridiculous. So there was four in the first half. So 8 minutes Danda, 12 minutes McCracken, 13 minutes Jones, 44 minutes Thompson, so 4 in the first half. 54 minutes Schulte Brown, 5. 57 John Gio, 6. 72 Tiffany, 7. And then 80 Thompson was his second yellow, so a red card. That 8 yellow cards. And then 81 Clark Robertson, that's 9. And then 93 was Lewis Mayo, straight red. So 10 cards. Actually 11 cards, because you would count the red card for Thompson. So 11 cards in one match. And it's just, I think I said the same thing about the referee last week when I was saying that he was relatively new to Premier League. I think he'd only done like 9 previous Premiership matches, and he looked relatively young, and he was given things for everything, and I just wanted to run on and tell him to just relax, just take a chill pill, and just referee the match without being so uptight and wanting to give everything and get involved with everything. And that's actually dawned on me that that's kind of what all referees, you need to just to tell them. They all want to be involved too much. They give everything, and then they give nothing. There's certain fouls they'll give, and then 5 minutes later, exactly the same thing they won't give. And you're like, just didn't get involved and just give the glaring ones. But I think that's the way you'll know yourself. That's the way the football's going now. Everything's a foul. They want to get involved far too much.
Yep.
And it's just ruining the match, because you just get to the point where everything is slowing the match down constantly slowing the match down. And I mean, I'll give you an example of, he's booking all these people 10, 11 cards in the match. There was one where Kilmarnock got a throw-in right in front of the dugout. The right back takes the throw-in. Rory McKenzie chests the ball down, it bounces and goes out for another throw-in for Dundee this time. And obviously there's balls, right? Nowadays there's balls all around the pitch on cones, right? But he boots the ball into the main stand. That's a yellow card, right? That's a glaringly obvious, easy to give yellow card. And he just goes, yeah, just play on. But then there'll be another one where it's just somebody's clipped somebody, and it's a foul, but that's it, and he books them, and you're like, what?
Yeah, I think he wants to put his impact on the game, wants to put his authority on the game, and sometimes the best thing you've got to do is just let the game go, mate. Let it play, and if they're not following the rules, like as you say, if he's kicked the ball into the stand, it should be a booking, trying to kill time, or just out of anger maybe. but it's still a booking either way. I know you've mentioned him a few times and you're not very happy with his performances. I can't say much about him because I've not been to a game in months, and I've not been to one with him in charge, so I can't say much about the boy. But by what you're saying, it seems like he's wanting to be the authority and he wants to be in charge. He wants to have that impact on the game when it doesn't need it most of the time.
Exactly that, and it's all the stupid little fouls that they give that didn't need to be given. I mean, I was watching the Wally Collins show thing that he does, the Ref Watch, whatever it's called, and they were showing you the clip from the Aberdeen versus Rangers match, and it was Rangers' penalty, and Gassama, shock, goes down under a tackle from Graham Shinney, also shock. I mean, it's like a knee-on-knee kind of collision, which there's contact, but we're playing football, by the way, and I know that it's cliche to say it's a contact sport, but I keep saying this on this podcast, not every single bit of contact means there's a foul to be given. And Graham Shinney makes contact with the boy Gassama's like knees, kind of up his thigh a wee bit maybe. And potentially that could lead to Gassama being impeded and falling over. Absolutely. But the way that he falls over is he's arching his back and his shoulders go right back and his arms go in the air and he falls over. Now, I'm no physicist, right? But I can categorically tell you that if I'm running, by the way, he wasn't running, he'd stop to check his run and go the other way. And somebody's knee clashes with my thigh or thigh clashes with my thigh. The way that I would fall, if it is to impede me enough to make me fall, is not that. So you're no telling me, and Willie Collum, as soon as he got asked, he's like, yep, penalty, absolutely. You can see the contact there, it's a penalty, right? And the next clip, and by the way, it was the same ref, the boy Dickinson, was the Rangers versus Motherwell game at Ibrox, and there was a penalty shout for Motherwell in that game that was equally as dubious as the Aberdeen Rangers one with Gassama. There was very little contact. But if we're given penalties for very little contact, then that's a penalty. And the same referee doesn't give it. Now, they showed you a few angles and it was all we can't really see very much from those angles. And it's since transpired that official club channels had put different clips up from behind the goal and stuff, and it gives you a better view of it. But at the time, VAR didn't have access to them. So, they could disagree with the referee. But my argument is not so much that not so much that it should have been a penalty or whatever. My argument is if it's one rule for one, i.e. minimal contact with the boy throwing himself to the ground is a penalty, but there's contact, so it is, then the Motherwell one should be given as well. And Willie Collins' get out of jail free card when he was getting interviewed was, well, there's no angles to give it. But what he should have been pressed on, in my opinion, and I know this is kind of irrelevant, is now that you've seen extra footage, do you think it is a penalty? But he doesn't get asked that because it's not within the remit of that show. So yeah, I know that we've banged on about referees. Again, we'll now move over to United because they were also facing Ayrshire opposition in Ayr United, and they are also safely through to the next round, Jack.
They are. Quite a slow performance to start with, mate. Didn't really do much in the first half. Dave Richards is forced into a good save quite early on. Apart from that, I think United had a couple of chances, but nothing major. Second half, though, United made a few subs and two of them connected. Ryan Strain does well on the right-hand side. Gets challenged by, I think, the boy Russ from Ayr. Out-muscles him, gets past him, cuts the ball back into Nicholas Moeller, who manages to touch it past the goalkeeper for his first United goal. Then Pam Kamara, near the end, I think about the 89th minute, manages to burst through the defence. A nice pass from out wide, manages to find him in the middle, and he hits it well and has managed to make it 2-0. So yeah, good result from United, comfortable, it seemed like. Potential banana peel avoided, and it puts us on to a nice draw in the next round against a lower league opposition.
Well, yeah, I was going to touch on that in a bit, but since you have mentioned it, I might as well speak about it, because obviously after the Auchinleck Talbot against Celtic game yesterday, the fifth round draw was made, and a bit of a contrast in terms of how easy each other's draws were. Very, very typical of Dundee. They get one of the hardest, if not the hardest draw left in the competition. It's beginning to get... See, before it was a bit funny, like Dundee are very unlucky with cup draws. It was just annoying. Like, I know that there'll have been plenty of years in the past 20 odd when Dundee haven't made it to Hampden where they'll have been beaten by shit teams that they should be beaten, or a team relatively near their own ability, or just worse or just better, where it's a bit of a 50-50 and Dundee come out on the losing end. But their luck, with the cup draws, especially in maybe the past 10 or so years, is bordering on comical now. I mean, they've had Rangers and Celtic dealing with every single season.
Seriously?
And it's not like they get them in a semi-final when there's only 4 teams left. Only 3 of them you can play, obviously, because you're one team.
Mm-hmm.
It's rounds before it. Normally it's the quarter-final, and that's even more irritating because you're one victory away from getting your day out. And at this point in time, Dundee fans aren't even wanting to win a cup. They're just wanting a day out.
It's been a few years since you got that, to be fair.
It can. So if you were to look back on it, so this year they've got Celtic. They've got Celtic at Parkhead in the 5th round of the Scottish. The League Cup, they were knocked out early. That's irrelevant. The Scottish Cup last year, they got United at Dens, one of the hardest draws they could have got, because obviously if United are lower in the league, it's still a hard game for Dundee, because it's a derby. Equally as hard for United, by the way, having it come at Dens. Like, Dundee were right in the league last season, but it's a hard game for United in terms of what the game is. They got through at the 5th round, and then they got Hearts at Tynecastle, which Dundee could win on their day, but it's a hard draw. But in the League Cup, they got Rangers at Ibrox in the quarter-final. The season before that, they got knocked out of the section of the League Cup, and they got knocked out at Kilmarnock away, who were flying that season under Derek McInnes in the first round that they entered it. The season before that, knocked out for St Mirren. Dundee were a championship team. Knocked out for St Mirren. In the League Cup, they got Rangers at Ibrox. The year before that, they got to the quarter-final of the Scottish, and they got knocked out from Rangers at Dens. You'd have to go back 2 or 3 seasons then for their quarter-final before that. They got Celtic at Dens. And then I think I was in before the quarter-final before that was Rangers at Ibrox. So the quarter-final was normally Rangers that Dundee get. But they've also had a couple of Celtics as well. And it's kind of, I'm not coming on here and saying it's not fair or anything like that. It is what it is. Everybody's got the same chance. But when you look at the cup draw and you've got nae Hearts, you've got nae Hibs, nae Kilmarnock, nae Livy, you've only got, 8 Premier League teams left out of 16, one of them being yourself. So you've only got 7 teams left from the Premier League that you could draw out of 15 teams that are available. One of them's Spartans, one of them's Elgin, one of them's Stenhousemuir, Kelty, and they get Celtic at Parkhead.
It's unfortunate, mate.
It's just no fair, eh? Like I'm saying it's no fair. It is fair, but it feels like it's not fair.
Yeah.
So yeah. And the thing is, right, Dundee could beat Celtic at Parkhead if they play very well. This is not a great Celtic team, right?
Mm.
Dundee have a chance, right? But if they were to beat Celtic, they'd get Rangers in the next round there. It's just typical. So,
Yeah, that's true, by the way. I mean,
yeah.
what was that? 4 of the years, 5 of the years you've picked up previously, you got drawn against Rangers in the quarters.
Yeah, yeah. So, whilst I remember the season where we were in the Championship and we got St Mirren away, and it was one of the hardest games you could get. So that was the first season that Stephen Robertson got St Mirren into the top six. So it's a hard game, that. I mean, obviously it's not Rangers or Celtic hard, but it's a hard game to go to St Mirren as a Championship team who are doing well. And United got Stirling University.
Yeah, that's
And
crazy.
I turn up like they're blinking Gryffindor for Harry Potter. Oh, anyway. Anyway. Score predictions from the results at the weekend. Would you know it, Jack? I've picked up my first 2 points of the challenge.
Oh my God.
So there was a game, Dundee United versus Ayr and Kilmarnock versus Dundee. For Dundee United versus Ayr, the score was 2-0. I went 2-0 and Jack went with 1-all. So I got the full 2 points, Jack scored 0. For Kilmarnock versus Dundee, I went 1-all. Jack went with 0-0. The score was 2-1 Dundee, so both picked up 0 points. So now the total scores are Andrew on 13 and Jack on 15.
Catching up.
So back within a score of you now on that challenge, Jack. But whilst I'm filling out this, you can tell me all about transfer updates at Tannadice.
Yeah, so not much to report. Lewis Haldane has been loaned to Jeansville Swifts after his loan at Cowan Beef was cut short. Young goalkeeper. Don't know what his potential's like, but a loan move's never a bad thing for a young player. Owen Sturton has joined the cooperative agreement with Airdrie, but in all honesty, I've not a clue what use that'll be because...
That's your favourite thing in the world, that cooperative agreement with Airdrie.
Yeah, mate, but what's the use of it if the players aren't going to get any game time? Owen Sturton's another around our squad. We've not signed another striker, so he's going to be needed. So I don't think he's even going to get a game for Airdrie, to be honest. I think it would have made more sense just to loan him out like as a proper loan instead of this agreement because I think it's an absolute waste of a space, to be honest. For signings, we have signed one player. Mentioned it last week. I don't know if it was confirmed at that point, but Neil Ferrugia has signed from Barnsley on a 2.5-year deal. Jim Goodwin's saying he's going to be a winger. He sees him as an attacking option for us. I think he can play left back as well, so he'll be an option there, but I think he will be playing mainly on the wings for us. And finally, a little rumour is that Vancouver Whitecaps are back in for Will Ferry. There was interest in him in the summer. Nothing came of that, but as far as I'm aware, they are back and interested in him. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any bids that come our way for that.
And with the signing of Ferrugia and with Will Ferry being constantly linked to Vancouver and others,
Yeah.
do you think that that could potentially be Will Ferry's replacement? Because I know that he's not really played left side of defence, but with United playing kind of a 3-4-3, do you think that would maybe suit him to play the Will Ferry wing back role?
Yeah, it would make sense, mate. If Goodwin's saying he's more an attacking option, that could be covered just to protect the club if, like, to not give off the impression that the club are going to get rid of Will Ferry. They could be, Will Ferry's safe, he's not going to leave the club. But Ferrugia's playing further upfield, whereas in reality, I think Ferrugia is going to be a replacement for Will Ferry, and if Will Ferry does leave this window, we may need to sign another left wing back, because we've only got one in that position, really. So we'll just have to wait and see if Vancouver come in for an offer or not. or any other team for that matter. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
I don't know if you want to put forward the rumour that you've heard through the forums.
Well, I don't know if that rumour was true, so I'm going to keep it to myself just now. I don't want to suggest anything unless it is true, but we'll wait and see on that one.
Okay, fair enough. You shite bag. But anyway, we'll cover Dundee quickly. So after the game on Saturday, there was a rumour that was actually confirmed by Stephen Presley that Dundee had rejected a six-figure offer for Luke Graham, and it does look like a bit like the Luke McCowan situation at the beginning of last season, where Luke Graham's looks like he's fairly comfortable with the situation, and it doesn't look like he's going to really force a move, which obviously strengthens Dundee's position. And it's also good that there seems to be quite a few clubs sniffing in about him, which also improves Dundee's position. With a year and a half left on his contract, if he doesn't go now, he's going to go in the summer. I'd rather it be the summer. It gives us the best possible chance to have a successful, maybe not the right word, but a good end to this season with Luke Graham in the team, because he's arguably our best centre half. With that situation ongoing, it looks like Dundee aren't going to budge from their asking price. And with Aberdeen potentially interested, Hearts have been rumoured, Portsmouth, there's another English team as well, then it certainly does strengthen Dundee's position with a bit of a bidding war going on. So fairly comfortable with that. As we record on the 19th of January, still nothing seems to have happened on that. So yeah, that's that.
Sorry, how much would you be looking for if you were Dundee?
With a year left on his contract, at least $1 million.
Do you reckon they'll hold out for that?
Yeah. They held out for $1 million with Luke McCowan, and Luke McCowan had 6 months less on his contract.
True.
Like, the Hibs kept bidding and bidding and bidding and bidding and bidding. And I think Hibs initially supposedly started on something ridiculous, like 300 grand or something. And Dundee said, no, he's asking prices $1 million. Now, I'm just speculating here. Luke McCowan's agent is Jackie McNamara, right? Luke McCowan is a Celtic supporter. I reckon, because at the time, there was loads and loads of rumours about him signing for Hibs, but there was always and Celtic remain interested, and they're monitoring the situation line on the article. I reckon, because it was so clear that Luke McCowan wasn't really that bothered about going to Hibs, I think he would have probably signed for them if they were the only team involved, but I don't think he was that bothered about going from Dundee to Hibs. If he had to stay at Dundee rather than going to Hibs, I think he was fairly comfortable with that. So I reckon that Celtic were in Jackie McNamara's ear, or Jackie McNamara was getting from sources that he'll have at Celtic information to say, look, we'll be in eventually type thing. And they eventually came in for him on the last day and got him. But it seems to be something similar to that. Luke Graham doesn't seem to be forcing anything, which is good, because if we've got a player like that, then it's never ever ends well for anybody, and it's always a bit of a mess. So if he does go, Dundee will get compensated. Hopefully they'll hold out for what they think he's worth. They'll hold out for maybe even getting a bit of a sell-on fee with that as well. So that's that situation. Not so much Dundee related, but kind of Dundee related. Lyle Cameron went on loan from Rangers to Aberdeen. There's a bit of controversy surrounding that from the Aberdeen end of things. The fans not too happy that they're taking a Rangers player on loan with no option to buy. I think it's an absolutely ridiculous situation, to be honest with you. And before I go into this, I know that it is not Rangers' fault. I know it is not Dundee's fault. Rangers have got their valuation for Lyle Cameron, Dundee have got theirs. They have not met in the middle, and it is going to a tribunal. That's what the process is. I understand all that, and that is not either team's fault. But what I will say is, is that whether it's the SFA who have to change rules, or it's UEFA, or it's FIFA, they've got to do something about that. They've got to move the timeline up to the end of July or the end of August when the transfer window shuts, because it is an absolute nonsense that Lyle Cameron has been allowed to play for Rangers for 6 months, and now he's on loan at another team who will have paid Rangers a loan fee for him, and Dundee still haven't been compensated for him. And under the rules, Dundee are due compensation for him. So there's got to be a rule change there somewhere to say that if this thing happens, where an under-23 or whatever player moves club, and the club he was at is deserving of compensation for him, and it goes to a tribunal without the two clubs agreeing a fee, that the tribunal has to take place before a certain date. And in my opinion, it's either the end of July before the league season starts, or the end of August when the transfer window shuts. That's fair in my opinion.
I think, I fail to see how they can't come to an agreement, or the tribunal is not taking place. It should be, like you say, end of the transfer window, whatever, or something like within a month of the transfer being completed. If that's the case, or the deal's been signed, and if it doesn't happen, it goes straight to court and it's sorted in a couple of days.
Yeah, and that's got to be an SFA rule change or UEFA, FIFA, whatever, because, as I say, this is not Rangers' fault. Rangers have a valuation of Lyle Cameron, and Dundee have theirs. And with Josh Mulligan, apparently Josh Mulligan, Dundee took less money for Josh Mulligan than what Rangers are offering for Lyle Cameron, but Dundee got a sell-on fee with the money that they got. So say they got 200 grand for Josh Mulligan, plus 10% of what Hibs make if they were to sell him for a transfer fee. I think they're wanting something similar for Lyle Cameron, but maybe Rangers aren't prepared to give them a sell-on fee, or something like that. They're just not agreeing to meet in the middle. It seems to be what the case is. But, as I say, this is not Rangers' fault, this is not Dundee's fault, but there's got to be some sort of rule that if a tribunal is required, that the tribunal takes place before a certain time, because we're now almost into February and Lyle Cameron's playing for another team than the team that he signed for. It's an absolute piece of nonsense.
Yeah, it's not great, man, is it?
No. But before we quickly round up the weekend's results, we'll finish off on transfer news. There isn't any rumours I've seen for incomings this week. Nothing from Scott Burns, who's usually Mr. Reliable when it comes to Scottish football transfers. I did see that a boy called Furlong, I think it's James Furlong, who plays for Hull City, is rumoured to be attracting interest from teams in England, but there's also several Scottish teams who are interested in him. And apparently Dundee are one of them.
I think United are one of them as well.
He's a left back, I think.
Yeah. You have missed out on a couple of signings for Dundee, by the way.
Yeah, I'm getting there. There. The two signings they made last week since the podcast we recorded last week, they signed right back Brad Halliday from Bradford City, who has been apparently in League Two in England League Two player in England team of the season for the past 2 seasons. They are now in League One and challenging for promotion to the Championship, so he's no longer, their manager's Graham Alexander, and I don't think he's really first choice anymore. So he's now moved on to Dundee. 400 or so professional appearances. I think he came through at Middlesbrough, and he's played for York, he's played for Bradford, and amongst other teams. So it looks a very, very solid signing. He's 30 years old, 2.5-year deal, and it was a position that we really needed strengthening in. We've not really got a lot of fullbacks. We've currently got a right-footed player playing at left back, so you could even argue that we maybe need a left back, and that's maybe why we're rumoured to be interested in the boy Furlong from Hull. And the same day, this is terrible, but I forgot the boy's first name. His second name is Cotterill. They signed him on loan from Swansea. He spent the first half of the season on loan at Bristol Rovers, who are now managed by Steve Evans. And apparently when Steve Evans came in, December time I think it was, they got to the January transfer window and he emptied out, if not all, most of, if not all of the loan players for players that he wanted. Cotterill being one of them, went back to Swansea. Supposedly we were interested in him in the summer, along with Congreve. We got Congreve, we didn't get Cotterill, he went to Bristol Rovers, but now we've got him. He's a bit of an attacking midfield player apparently. I watched his signing interview and he sees himself as an attacking 8, whatever that means, who knows. So yeah, 2 signings in the door. I think they're maybe going to be looking for a striker. Emil Aqua did go out on loan to Harrogate. I think we spoke about that last week. So they've only really got Simon Murray and Ash Hay as strikers. I suppose Charlie Riley could probably play there, but I think Stephen Presley sees him more as a wide midfield player. So a striker may be on the wish list for Presley, but nothing to report. The other thing that I wanted to cover, because we didn't cover this already, was the rest of the results from the Scottish Cup at the weekend. So on Friday it was Rangers 5 and an Athletic 0. If you haven't seen the goals from that, check out the boy Asgard's free kick, it's an absolute cracker. On Saturday it was Dunfermline Athletic 1, Hibernian 0. Airdrieonians 3, Arbroath 3, with Airdrieonians winning 4-2 on penalties. Camelon Juniors 1, Elgin City 3, Dundee United 2, Ayr United 0, Kelty Hearts 1, Cove Rangers 0, Kelty Hearts winning 5-3 on penalties. Kilmarnock 1, Dundee 2, Livingston 1, St Mirren 1, with St Mirren winning 4-3 on penalties. Motherwell 1, Ross County 0, Partick Thistle 3, Montrose 1, Spartans 0, Inverness Cally Thistle 0, with Spartans winning 4-2 on penalties. Big one here, Stenhousemuir 4, Greenock Morton 0, and Hearts 1, Falkirk 1, with Falkirk winning 5-4 on penalties. Moving on to Sunday, it was Aberdeen 1, Raith Rovers 0, and Auchinleck Talbot 0, Celtic 2. So, Jack, this weekend United are back in league action. They face St Mirren at Tannadice. What are your thoughts going into that one? St Mirren not in great form.
No, they're not, mate. They've not won any of the last 5 in the league. They did get a result over Livingston on penalties, I think it was, in the cup there, but in the league they've lost to Hearts, Falkirk, Motherwell and Rangers in the last 5. Draw with Killie as well. They're not on a great run at all. However, St Mirren obviously won the cup this season already. Stephen Robinson in charge. Always quite a tough team to beat, but they are the worst team in the league in the last 5 games based on form. It's a game where it could obviously go either way, and they're not known for their scoring capability this year. I think they've got the lowest goals scored in the league total. So you're hoping for a clean sheet based on that. But yeah, it's a tough game. Hopefully Ferrugia gets on, maybe gets a few minutes. I want Claire Harden to start. I think he strolled it against Ayr supposedly, and he's done well against the last few games he's played, so I think he should be given a start over a boy like S-Link, who's not been great. So yeah, it's like I say, it's a tough game. Hopefully we can get another win under the belt and maybe a clean sheet as well.
Did the lad Ferrugia get any minutes against Ayr United?
Not that I noticed, no.
No.
I think Tapanovsky came on instead.
See, that's a bit unusual and a bit unsuspected, because I thought that unexpected, because I thought that that would be a cracking game for him to get brought in against low league opposition. Like, it's a good game to bring him into, isn't it? I know that, I don't know, I wouldn't go as far as saying that United made hard work of the game, but I know that the game was very close up until quite late on.
Yeah, it was. Maybe you just wanted to go with trusted players. to get the result over the line. Maybe he's not quite match fit because he wasn't playing much for Barnsley. So it could be either of them. But I think the best time to maybe get match fit is against a team in the lower leagues. Maybe a bit easier, maybe a bit less fit. So yeah, it is a wee bit surprising, but I think he's just went with the people he knows and trusts.
If you were Jim Goodwin, what would be the positions that you would like to strengthen in?
We need a goalie, mate. I think Dave Richards is fine, but he's not a first choice goalie in my opinion. Maybe a creative midfielder. Touched on that last week. I think a creative midfielder we can do with. I think boys like Sibbald and Pam Kamara, boys like that aren't really creative. They're more defensive option. And maybe a striker or a winger. I think we can do maybe a few more goals up top. Sapsford and Fata are good players, but we don't really have that third option that can impact games there. So yeah, maybe a winger or a striker there as well.
A striker is certainly what I think Dundee should be going for. But with Ayrshire playing pretty well recently, he's obviously scored 3 goals in 4 or 5 matches, then you're not exactly going to be bringing in a striker that's sat on the bench, and you've got Simon Murray on the bench who hasn't been great this season. He's only got a handful of goals, maybe not even that. But this team set don't really seem to be playing to striker strengths, I would say. It's a lot of cross balls, it's not really Simon Murray's game. But the only other thing that I would maybe want to do is to bring in a bit of a driving force through midfield. Like Ethan Hamilton has been a very good signing. Jan Danda has been very good recently in the middle of the park. But I think if you were to get someone else in there, it's that third midfielder. Callum Jones is a good player, but I think he can be quite hit or a miss. So yeah, and then a left back. I know that Dre Wright has been filling in there. He's been playing there for the past few weeks, and he's been playing very well there. Dre Wright, I think, is one of the type of players who will play well wherever you put him. But I think we can certainly do with a left-footed left back. But anyway, we'll touch on the Dundee game. Dundee are at Ibrox, and it's on Sunday afternoon. I'm not going to go. I think I'll probably do some work instead. My thought process about not going is that I went earlier this season and we were 1-0 up for a long time in the second half. Rangers got a very, very dubious penalty to equalise. We could have actually won the match. We then went up the park and missed quite a good chance ourselves, and then Rangers had a goal disallowed at the very end of stoppage time. So I think my luck's probably ran out when it comes to Ibrox this season, and going there again, I think the Rangers are in good form just now, and they're quietly going about their business. All the talks on, will Hearts keep this up, and how poor Celtic have been. Rangers seem to be kind of quietly creeping up on the two of them. They're ahead of Celtic now. And I think there's only going to be one winner on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, mate, Rangers is always a tough place to go. Like you say, they're on a good run just now. They beat Celtic, Aberdeen twice and Motherwell in the last 5 games. I think they also beat St Mirren as well in that run. Dundee, can't put them down though, mate. I think they've won 4 of the last 5. Only loss coming to Hearts in them 5, so you've been on a good run. Ibrox always is a hard place to go. Rangers, like you say, going about their way, doing what they need to do. They've climbed the table really well recently. Tough game, mate. I think Rangers are going to have too much quality for you ultimately, but you never know. Dundee have been pretty good against Old Firm this season, so it's not without the realms of possibility.
They have been no bad against Old Firm this season, but they were well and truly beat by Rangers when Rangers were at Dens a couple of months ago. It was 3-0 going on 6-0. But Dundee have improved a lot since then, but I think Rangers have got better as well. The boy Roll, even though he wasn't first choice in the beginning, I think he's turned a lot of people's opinions around, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens there. But what we'll do now is we will put forward our predictions for the matches at the weekend. So, Jack, first of all, you can tell me what you think the score between Dundee United and St Mirren will be.
I'm going to go 1-0 United.
1-0 United, okay. Two teams that aren't in much confidence at the moment. I'm going to say 1-1. And as for the Rangers versus Dundee match, I'm going to say 4-1 to the home side. What do you reckon?
Based on your recent form, I think your last 5, there's only been 1 goal in it. I'm going to stick with that theme. I'm going to go 1-0 Rangers.
Okay. Okay, so we'll get them locked in, and that will be the next round of the Score Predictor Challenge. But we'll move on now to the other challenge we do, and that is the Futbology Challenge. So this week, a bit of a turn up for the books. We have results and we have a forfeit. The forfeit, though, not for Jack.
Crazy.
Forfeit, 700 and odd games that I've got recorded on Futbology, and I have a forfeit day. So this week we have a score from 2019, which was Martin. Funnily enough, Martin and Jack both had 2 games, and they turned out to be the same. Martin got 1 and Jack got 2 with the random number generator. The 1 was a United victory and the 2 was a draw. So Jack picks up the draw, Martin picks up the win. The draw, 2019, Montrose 0, Dundee United 4. 2020, Dundee United 2, Hibernian 2. So Jack picks up a point. That extends Martin's lead at the top of the table to 6 points. So just when I thought I was catching up with him, he pulls away again. Jack closes the gap on me to 8 points. So we'll have a read through the team line, starting off with Martin's result. It was the Scottish got 4th round, Saturday, January 19th, 2019. Links Park for Montrose against Dundee United. There was a crowd of 3,604. The teams that day were managed by Stuart Peaty and Robbie Nielsen. For Montrose, Alan Fleming, Ryan Hartman, Sean Dillon, Ian Campbell, Andrew Steeves, Graham Webster, Terry Masson, Patrick Craig, Jamie Redmond, Craig Johnston and Martin Rennie. On the bench, Paul Watson, Ross Campbell, Michael Bolo Jawicki, Liam Callaghan, Josh Skelly, Christian Antoniazzi and Jordan Miller. For United, Benji Siegrist, Paul Watson, Callum Booth, Frederick Franz, Rashid Buhena, Margaro Gomez, Sam Stanton, Aidan Nesbitt, Cammy Smith, Pavel Safranco and Paul McMillan. On the bench, Matej Rakovan, Fraser Aird, William Edgingeli, Jamie Robson, Ian Harks, Billy King and Nicky Clark. Moving on to Jack's game at the weekend. Scottish got 4th round again. It was Sunday, January 19th, 2020. Tannadice, where there was a crowd of 9,400. The managers were Robbie Nielsen and Jack Ross. A 2-2 draw. The starting 11 for United was Benji Siegrist, Mark Connolly, Jamie Robson, Liam Smith, Paul Watson, Callum Butcher, Ian Harks, Peter Pollitt, Dylan Powers, Paul McMillan and Lawrence Shankland. And on the bench, Dennis Mehmet, Mark Reynolds, Adrian Sporla, Declan Glass, Adam King, Louis Appere and Osmond So. And on the Hibs team was Ophir Marciano, Jason Naismith, Ryan Porteous, Paul Hanlon, Lewis Stevenson, Stephen Whittaker, Melker Hallberg, Martin Boyle, Scott Allen, Florian Camberry and Christian Doige. And on the bench, Adam Bogdan, David Gray, Darryl Horgan, Vikintas Slivka, Joe Newell, Dan McGregor and Ollie Shaw. The scorers were Doige on 8, Shankland on 45, Boyle on 47 and Après on 74. Jack, tell me about what you remember from that day.
The reason I remember being at this game, mate, was because it was the first time I'd went to a football game with my partner's old man. Me, my partner, and our dad went to the game. Obviously, they're based in Edinburgh, and I think Hibs are probably the team they would choose to support if they were picking a team. They're not fans of football, but that's probably what they would support. But I was like, why don't we go to a game? United have got Hibs. We'll go down to Dundee and we'll go to the game. And it was good. The Shankland obviously scoring. I think Christian Doidge was on a good run at that point, and he managed to score quite early on, as you said. I think it was a breakout game for Louis Appert, I think, or Appere, whatever you say. He scored a really good goal, and then he almost repeated it not long later. Managed to beat a couple of boys, just missed with his second attempt. But yeah, I think it was a classic cup game. Teams both going at it. Hibs probably the better side, but you always obviously take the draw. In the replay though, we went to Easter Road and they ended up beating us. But yeah, it was a good day out. Good to see my family and all that at that one. And yeah, that's all I remember from that one, really.
I'm pretty sure that the game was live on BBC, but I could be wrong. Anyway, that concludes episode 29 of the Sandeman Street podcast. If you haven't already, and I know that you haven't, because loads of you haven't, that listen, followed us on social media. We are on Twitter or X, whatever you prefer. We are on Instagram, on Twitter or X, whatever you prefer. We are at Sandeman ST Pod. And on Instagram, we are at the Sandeman Street Pod. We're also on YouTube. If you could subscribe to our channel there, share our videos, tell your pals, that would be much appreciated. So, as always, from Jack and from myself, bye for now, and have a great weekend. Cheers.